2023 Mercedes G Wagon. This is a G550, and yes, this is the prior outgoing generation, the W463. Before we sit down with Mercedes and walk you through all the various technical improvements to the 465 or the 2024 variant, where we're going to talk to engineers and product planners, we figured we'd revisit the old one. The W463, or this version of it, was sold from 2018 as a 2019 model all the way up to 2023. This vehicle, when it was introduced in 2019, was supposed to be the softening in some ways of the G Wagon. They ditched the live axle in the front. It no longer got recirculating ball steering. They did do their best, though, to maintain its off-road capability and minimize as many compromises as possible. They added back some of the rigidity, like adding a strut tower bar in the engine bay. It got more ground clearance, more approach to departure angle, but we're going to talk about that in the shop. From a styling perspective, the G Wagon has stayed true to its roots. Much like the 911, this looks very similar to its original vehicle all the way back in the late 70s when it was essentially a military vehicle. Since then, the G Wagon has become a status symbol. The interior has grown in luxury and appointments, though they still maintain some of the things that makes this truly off-road capable. You have the side exhausts, which are done both from a styling perspective, but really from a functionality perspective. They aren't going to get caught on rocks as easily as they would if they were routed all the way to the back. And you get some of the things that you are used to in a vehicle like this, like its build quality. Listen to this door. You get that sort of bank vault solidity to this car. And honestly, you should expect that for this price. The G550 starts at an eye-watering $139,000. Fully loaded, it's $188,000. From an interior electronics perspective, this is all old Mercedes stuff. No touch screen. You have to use the trackpad or a jog dial for everything. Whether that is a pro or a con versus their new interior electronics, I'll leave it up to you. This is a two-row SUV. The rear seats do not fold flat. You have a very large boxy trunk, which with this interior option gets a wood floor, which is, honestly, it looks really nice, though. It does scratch easily. Past that, though, again, we're not going to focus too much on the interior of this because it's all updated for the W465 variant. Let's head in the shop and put this thing up on the lift. So what is the G Wagon? The G Wagon shares some of its kinship to a vehicle like the Hummer H1. This started off as a military vehicle. In fact, the Shah of Iran reached out to Mercedes and asked for a desert-capable military Jeep, essentially. It was used by various governments and militaries and civilians as sort of that do-everything capable off-roader, and much like a Range Rover, it evolved into a luxury status symbol. In 2018, this received its first major revision. It ditched the live axle in the front, maintaining the live axle in the back with a panhard bar and, of course, coil springs, but moved to independent wishbones in the very front of this vehicle, vastly improving steering feel, ride and handling, and, of course, helping it work with all the various modern required safety systems. The unique thing about the double wishbone layout is it does not have a unibody frame in the front to mount to. It's mounted directly on the ladder frame on the G Wagon. They tried to make sure the lower control arms were as mounted as high as possible in the Z-axis, giving this ultimate ground clearance. This G Wagon, which improves the ground clearance over the outgoing model, has 9.5-ish inches of ground clearance, making it around the same as you find in a modern Wrangler, and it has very, very good approach to departure angles, better than a Wrangler 4-door. And it's not a faux off-roader. You get 3 locking differentials, a center, a front, and a rear. The idea is you activate the center first, then the rear, then the front. It is a vehicle that can ford like 28 inches of water as well. This has the unenviable task, given its buying demographic and consumer, of being both incredibly capable off-road, much like a modern Range Rover, while still being a luxury vehicle. One of the things they did for this generation was adopt modern materials. So there's a larger use of aluminum, like in the doors and the fenders, and a better use of high-strength steel, so they dropped nearly 400 pounds of weight. And this is still built by Magnus Steyr. It's powered by a variety of different drivetrains, but in this G550, it's powered by the 4-liter bi-turbo V8 that you've seen before. It makes 416 horsepower and 450-ish foot-pounds of torque. Puts its power down through a 9-speed automatic. It's good for 0 to 60 in the low 5s. The G550, if you can believe, is the entry-level G-Wagon of this generation sold here in the United States. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the overall proportions of this vehicle. Obviously, it's enormous. It weighs a little bit over 5,200 pounds, depending on if you get an AMG model and a 6x6 or a 4 squared. Obviously, you're going to grow that mass exponentially. but it did grow in overall interior dimensions, much like something like JL Wrangler. This got 2 inches wider and nearly 5 inches longer, and all of that increase in size was for the interior passengers. Again, this is a mall crawler, so the idea is, while it is still capable off-road, they had to improve the interior livability. But with all that said, let's go take this for a quick drive with Mark. Hey Mark, ever since I've been driving around in this G Wagon, I have stronger feelings on the billionaire tax. Side exhaust.
Threw the sunshade back with all that torque.
Yeah.
Oh my God, please don't.
Yeah.
No! Oh my God, dude. This thing is like...
High seas, Mark.
I feel like I need a hydraulic seat like a semi in this thing.
I spent nearly 900 miles in this thing. I went to go drive it for an unveiling of a new sports car out in Michigan. And I will tell you, there are 2 different experiences to the G Wagon. There's this under 55 miles an hour, and then there's over 55 miles an hour.
Okay.
Under 55, amazing. If you want to feel like a baller, you want people to dislike you for many reasons, it's a great vehicle. It's well built, it's extremely quiet. There's a certain side of it that appeals to a part of me that I dislike immensely. It appeals to the part of me that's a huge asshole. It's really comfortable. It doesn't handle all that well, but there's just a sense of imposingness that I appreciate. And then over 55, it's a Jeep, basically. You have all the problems of a big box that's body on frame. It blows around in the wind, it's noisy, it's not a great long-distance, high-speed cruiser. But for what it is and how capable it is off-road, which you're never going to use, it's an impressive piece of engineering, to be entirely
but how
honest.
many single mom...
Recently widowed?
Recently widowed moms did you pick up in suburban Carmel, Indiana on this thing?
A lot, Mark. I mean, I was packed deep in this thing. I don't know. We've never driven a G Wagon on this channel before, and it's interesting to drive the old one before we drive the even crazier, all updated variants with, oh, look at this body pitch. With, you know, it's a gajillion horsepower that can turn in one spot.
Yeah.
I never really understood these things, and there was a guy who used to work by where our shop is. His name's Alan, and he owns some of the old, you know, recirculating ball, real G Wagons that are, you know, solid axle front and rear.
Oh, there's your boy right there, bro.
C8, man.
Oh, I'm surprised you're not getting out to slap high fives, clink your lawn chair legs together.
Oh man, let me show him. Yeah, but when you see what these things can actually do, fording water, it's funny that something this capable.
Oh my God. Fording water puddles in the drive-thru with this thing.
This thing does not turn at all. It just grabbed inside front brake. It's like,
you know, the first thing that I thought of when we got in this is I can't believe how quick it is for just. I mean,
this is a slow one.
It's weird, and that's what I asked Jack. The first thing I said is like, how much does this thing weigh? He's like, oh, it's like 5,200 pounds, and I'm like, that's less. This is a big truck thing. It weighs less than some of the like modern,
the new M5.
Yeah, M5. These EVs. I mean, it's weird, but it feels light. I mean, it's not, you know, in terms of speed, but yeah, man, I mean, it's rolling all over the place. But I think that's the clientele. Clearly,
you're just going straight.
Yeah. The clientele is not going off-road in these.
You want to look down, both literally and figuratively, on people who are in a lower income bracket than you when you sit in this thing. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, it's either you're gonna go out and buy a Santa Fe, or if you've tripled your income, or quadruple your income, you're gonna buy this. I think it's cool for what it is. I mean, I like the fact that this is, you know, again, to your point, getting in the older one, you can see the iterative approach on the interior, and I mean, like, this feels more truck-like, and they tried to kind of like fancy it, tart it up, like, hey, let's throw some tech in here and some screens, and people are like, yeah, it's pretty cool. Cool. But I mean, overall, you're buying it because it's a unique experience, I would think.
Yeah, there's really nothing else like this, right? I mean, the Wrangler is, you know, like 80% less money than this.
Yeah.
The new Land Rover doesn't have this level of, I hate to say build quality, but build quality.
It feels solid as hell.
Yeah, this is really an impressive vehicle for what it is. The drivetrain's great. This 4-liter V8 is really, really powerful despite only making 400 whatever horsepower.
Yeah.
The 9-speed auto, you don't care that it's not the quickest shifting thing in the world because it's in a giant truck. And if you do want to take your $188,000 truck off-road and get it pinstriped with trees and scratches, this is one hell of a way to do it, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so with that,
I need to pick up some mobs now.
All right. Let's VMAX this thing and crash it. Final thoughts on the W463 generation G Wagon, sold between 2018 and 2024. First off, huge thanks to our Mercedes rep. I can't wait to actually get a deep dive on the new engineering that goes into the new generation W465. Now, what do you need to know? Well, first off, this is a polarizing super truck. You're gonna have to be someone who values off-road capability, polarizing appearance or reputation, and very unique driving dynamics. This does drive like a truck, though an ultra luxurious one that can ford rivers and go off-road. So if you're someone who values those things, you're gonna love this G Wagon. However, it does come at some cons, right? It does not feel anywhere as dynamic as something like a Porsche Cayenne or even a Range Rover, which, you know, arguably fills a very similar mission. But if you like the G Wagon, you're not gonna be disappointed to actually own or drive one, and with these things being used, hopefully the prices are a little bit more reasonable. So with that, thanks for watching and hope to see you soon.